Dog refuses to leave stranger's grave. When the police opened the grave, they got paralyzed. Nobody knew why the dog refused to leave an unidentified grave, but when the grave was opened, an incredible incident occurred. On this Sunday morning, the sun had already broken through the clouds and was bathing Hope Village's cemetery in golden light. The community was starting to awaken as the birds began to sing, heralding the arrival of a new day. Louisa, a little child, made the decision to go to her mother's grave on the weekends in order to pay her respects and have a conversation with her. Carrying a bouquet of fresh flowers, the girl strolled along the winding cemetery paths, encircled by trees and tombstones, until she arrived at her mother's final resting place. Louisa was a 17-year-old girl with expressive brown hair and large eyes that belied her kind and compassionate nature. She was well known for her generosity and love of animals, having grown up in the community. There was a great void in her daughter's heart since her mother, Helena, passed away from a rare illness 5 years before. Helena was a loving, sage, and strong mother who supported and mentored her daughter at all times. She was the one who instilled in the girl the value of loving and caring for both the environment and animals. Helena, the sole veterinarian in the community and a budding environmentalist, had imbued her daughter with these principles. Louisa had made it a point to visit Helena's cemetery every weekend after her death, bringing roses and a longing-filled heart with her. She felt that by carrying out this action, she would be respecting her mother's legacy and preserving her memory. Everything appeared regular and serene when she walked up to her mother's grave, but there was one item that stood out. A few meters away, Louisa spotted the presence of a devoted dog. She said softly, "Hey buddy, what are you doing here?" A dog named Loyal used to roam the village. Since Louisa had almost grown up with him and Helena had taken care of him when he was a puppy, he felt a great deal of respect for the girl. Despite their friendship, the dog preferred to live on the streets since he enjoyed his freedom and was well known and adored by the neighbors, who frequently gave him food and affection. Loyal was a gregarious, lively animal who endeared himself to everyone with his devotion and infectious enthusiasm. The dog, who didn't have a permanent home, was content with the community that took care of him and showed him the love and security he deserved. For the residents, Loyal was a symbol of love and hope, and he was considered a buddy and companion by all. But he was not the same guy that day. His eyes were watchful and alert, as if he were on a mission, as he lay close to a recently excavated grave. Louisa studied the dog's posture and its stiff physique, as though it were on defense, intrigued by its attitude. It growled just enough to let her know that it was uncomfortable as she approached. She suspected something was wrong because she loved animals and had a deep bond with the dog. In an attempt not to scare him or jeopardize the burial he was guarding, she tried to approach him carefully. The girl leaned down and extended her hand as she walked over, giving her friend a chance to sniff it and get to know her. "It's me, Louisa, over here, faithful." "I promise not to hurt you," the young lady stated in a kind voice. Loyal acknowledged the girl despite his guarded demeanor and permitted her to remain there, albeit with some distance. His eyes were bewildered and beseeching, as though he was trying to get through something vital. Louisa felt her heart tighten as she sensed the dog was uncomfortable and knew she had to look into the grave. Then she moved carefully towards Loyal, but stopped when she heard her snarl. Nevertheless, from that location, the name carved on an improvised gravestone could be read, an unidentified name that did not belong to any villager. At that moment, the young girl saw that the grass surrounding the tomb had been flipped over, and Louisa saw what appeared to be the tracks of an animal that had dug a hole in order to access something. Feeling worried, the girl returned her focus to Loyal, who continued to look from the grave to her. It took her many minutes to finally be able to pet the dog, but even then, she tried to soothe him and gave her word that she would investigate. She pulled out her cell phone at that point and reported the dog's odd behavior to the cemetery's manager. The woman addressed the man in charge, saying, "Yes, come quickly. There's something wrong here." Joseph, the worker, observed Louisa's restlessness and Loyal's peculiar actions as soon as he got there. Tall and middle-aged, Joseph had worked in cemeteries for a long time. He was aware that the dog had never before displayed hostility. Therefore, the circumstances were quite fascinating. What is happening here, then? He said to Louisa, "Why is he so agitated?" "Sir, I'm not sure. He wishes to keep everyone away from that grave." The young woman remarked, "It appears like he's attempting to shield it from something, or from us." In an attempt to make sense of the situation, the man glanced first at the dog and then at the grave. The dog kept barking when he tried to get closer to the headstone to see who owned it. Hey, Loyal, this is Joseph." "Calm down. Hey, buddy, I'm here to help," he said. But the beast grew more hostile the closer the man got to the cemetery. It was very obvious that it would not allow anyone to approach it, as it bared its teeth and gave a loud roar. Joseph paused abruptly, taken aback and concerned by his response. "Louisa, I've never seen him act like this," he said. "Something really weird is happening in this place." "I concur as well. I believe we will need to request assistance from the police by calling them." The girl remarked, "Perhaps Loyal is trying to show us something significant by hiding something essential inside that grave." The two decided to call the police after the man accepted their suggestion. The anticipation built as everyone waited, and there was a noticeable tension in the air. With his gaze set on the grave, Loyal stood watch, seemingly aware that something was seriously off. The word went rapidly in a tiny town like that, so the residents gathered in the cemetery upon the arrival of the police. Everyone was eager to learn more about the situation. The dog, intent on guarding the cemetery, remained where he was and seemed to be waiting for something to happen. However, nobody could have predicted what would happen. With solemn expressions on their faces, the officers walked up to Louisa, Joseph, and Loyal, eager to find out why they had been called. "Friends, good morning. During the call, you mentioned that something odd was happening. Could you please explain what transpired?" one of the officers said. "Well, gentlemen, this dog is quite hostile toward this tomb. Given the marks he dug there, he won't let anyone near it, and he appears to be attempting to safeguard something." The cemetery employee stated, "We felt it best to call you in to investigate the situation." As the police spoke with Joseph and the girl, the locals conjectured about possible situations.